Development charges. Yeah, that's part of our revenue. That's part of the revenue. There's all kinds of revenues in town, right? That council thinks
100%.
that it's going to go broke if we don't put in this 600 units of housing, that we'll miss out on $6 million of development charges. It's ridiculous to say that the town's future is depending on getting these development charges. That's not true at all. We've survived for 30 years, and if the town can't survive without these development charges, you're doing something wrong, man. You're doing something wrong.
100%.
So I don't want to hear that argument. It's a false argument, and we know that. And yet the councillors and the mayor in particular keep holding on to this, and we're calling your bluff.
That makes sense. I mean, when people make those kinds of arguments, those extremist arguments, they're generally not the truth, because I mean, there's always alternatives. I mean, that's our entire human race is based on that. There's always us prevailing.
Yeah.
So I mean, we need to believe that, first of all. But I mean, 100%, there's always alternatives. I mean, to actually believe that we're dependent on this one group. And I mean, when you set that precedent, you're asking yourself to be taken advantage of by a bunch of different kind of corporations. I mean, what's to stop somebody else from coming in? And that's an argument I've been seeing, like, oh, well, they could bring us to court and we can't afford the lawyers' fees and the court fees that go along with that. And I mean, you're asking yourself to be taken advantage of at that point.
Right. For sure. It is a bad precedent. And I'll say it's kind of too late in regard to, if it's not precedent, it certainly has set a tone for what's happening inside Orangeville's Town Council in this iteration of the last 2 years, and with 2 more years to go. We came out of a really bad period of 4 years with the previous mayor, and the town was so happy. All of us are happy to sort of move forward, right? And we did, and we're better off with the last election. We are better off with everyone being there, Sandy included. But what we're getting is the expectation has remained low. And I'm afraid that a couple of councillors and the mayor are playing to that low bar and taking advantage of it. And so you used the word, I can't remember what it was, but when you set that precedent, people in our group are believing that there's a lot of misdirection going on.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I'm trying to be fair here, but I say misdirection, and I agree with this, because there's more facts and more truths to be told. And they're certainly not coming out of the mouths of town council, and they should be. So that's, again, what's disappointing. And we want to let people know what's going on, because you get a lot of people. You said you haven't heard a lot of dissent or a lot of support for the Hansen project, and I've actually heard quite a bit. Maybe I got my ear to a different ground. People are screaming, put your NIMBYism away, and hey, why would you buy near that plot? It's going to get developed. We've heard it all, and it's valid in a certain sense. But our group has moved the conversation forward and deeper, and indicated how really complex this is. And when we're not getting all the facts from town hall, it's disappointing to me. It's really disheartening to a lot of the people in our group. Very disheartening. And you can imagine our group is selected for a lot of people who are very environmentally minded. Certainly, like I said, we had 100 people or more come out with quite extremes of environmental concern, where they go on to advocacy, and even, some people were irrational, and we knew that wouldn't work. But over the last year, it's been fantastic people putting together a message, and it's great. But the people expect, again, the council to not be distracting and not to give misleading information, and that's what's happening. So that's part of it. So yeah. So I hear you, man.
Well, I mean, and I think that's the best argument too, is the high density argument. I mean, it is quite a large group of people, or number of people, being put into a small area. It's quite a bit. It
is, and again, I made it very clear when I was a delegate in last February. We're not against town development. It's not about that, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is with the upgrade to the mall And there's a great opportunity there to shift. Like, what better opportunity to move forward and bring Orangeville into the 21st century in terms of being progressive with this development. And when I say that, a lot of people get scared. They think, oh, we don't want more growth, or we don't want to turn into Brampton or Toronto or Metropolitan. No, it's not about that. We're going to grow no matter what. So let's do it properly and smartly. Let's control where we move instead of just having chaos sort of take over and be piecemeal along the way, which you've sort of seen. That's why we have 90% housing versus commercial, right? There's a great opportunity there to negotiate. And this is a key word that a theme, I should say, that I want to maintain through our conversation today. The lack of wherewithal, the lack of want to negotiate is incredible. And especially when we've got a counselor who's a vice president of sales at a major corporation, when we have a director of a major academic institution, when we have a mayor who's a real estate agent. Like, what about this says we're not going to negotiate? We're not going to have these conversations. It's stunning. So there was a great opportunity here to talk with Strathallan Developments and see if they would be willing to become a multi use development, where we could squeeze in 3 or 4 levels, or maybe 5 or 6 of housing, redevelop the land there, use their land in a cooperative and partnership way for more parking, underground parking. You know, why spread out? And, you know, town's already talking about putting up 6, 7-story apartment buildings all over the place to facilitate this density that they feel under pressure from the Ford government. I mean, it's been there for 10 years, the Places to Grow Act, but what a great opportunity to just keep it tight. If we're gonna build where we already have the footprint. And then for us, we have an argument, and again, they don't want to hear it, where we could do other things with the Hansen land that would suit the town en masse. And I didn't hear peep about anyone thinking about, you know, adding some residential to the mall. It's stunning to me. And it's a huge lost opportunity. And I say that with the viewpoint from 10,000 feet and 20, 30, 40, 50 years out.
It definitely seems like there isn't enough negotiation going on. I mean,